You know those blue mailboxes on street corners where you drop your letters? The ones postal workers unlock and collect mail from? Yeah, those were invented by a black man named Philip B. Downing in 1891. But that's just the beginning of his story, because the mailbox wasn't even his most important invention. And the way history tried to erase him? That's a whole different level of systemic racism that started the day he filed his patents. Let me tell you about Philip Bell Downing, a man who came from 3 generations of abolitionists, invented at least 7 patented devices over 35 years, and had his name literally misspelled by the U.S. Patent Office on his most famous work. Philip was born on March 22, 1857, in Providence, Rhode Island, into what you might call American royalty. Not the kind with money and titles, but the kind with courage and conviction. His grandfather, Thomas Downing, was born to formerly enslaved parents in Virginia and moved to Manhattan in the 1820s, where he established Downing's Oyster House in the financial district in 1825. But that restaurant wasn't just serving seafood. It was a station on the Underground Railroad. From 1825 to 1860, Thomas Downing helped countless enslaved people escape to freedom, while Manhattan's elite ate oysters upstairs, completely unaware. In 1836, he became a founding member of the United Anti-Slavery Society of the City of New York. Philip's father, George Thomas Downing, continued that legacy. George was a prominent abolitionist and businessman who managed the dining room of the U.S. House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. He associated with people like Senator Charles Sumner and Colonel T.W. Higginson. Philip's mother, Serena L. DeGrasse, came from a family with New York City roots stretching back to the mid-1600s. So when Philip Downing started inventing things, he wasn't just tinkering. He was continuing a family tradition of making America work better, whether America wanted to acknowledge it or not. Philip grew up moving between Providence, Newport, Rhode Island, and Washington, D.C., always watching, always learning from his father's work. Around 1880, he moved to Boston and married Evangeline Howard. They had 2 children, Antonia and Philip Jr. To support his family, Philip worked as a postal clerk at the Boston Custom House, a job he would hold for more than 31 years until his retirement in 1927. But while he was sorting mail during the day, Philip was solving problems at night. His first patent came on June 17, 1890, and according to historical sources, it was his most significant invention. U.S. Patent 430,118 for street railway switches. Now, if you don't know what a streetcar switch is, imagine you're driving a trolley and you need to change tracks to go from the main line to a side track. Before Philip's invention, the driver had to stop the car, get out, manually move a heavy switch mechanism, get back in, and continue. Dangerous, slow, and inefficient. Philip changed everything. In his patent, he wrote that his invention related to that class of street railway switches in which the switch tongue is operated by mechanism worked from the vehicle traveling upon the railway or by the vehicle itself. In plain English, he let drivers control the switches from inside the moving streetcar. Here's how it worked. Philip mounted an arm underneath the streetcar with a roller on the end. The driver had a handle on the platform. When he pulled it, the arm dropped down and hit a block embedded in the track. That block triggered a lever mechanism that moved the switch rail, changing the tracks, all while the car was moving. Philip even invented an automatic reset feature. After one car switched tracks, the next car's wheels would automatically reset the switch back to the main line. No worker needed to go fix it. And get this, Philip calculated the precise spacing of the mechanism based on the streetcar's wheelbase, so the back wheels wouldn't accidentally close the switch before the car finished switching. He did the math. This wasn't just an invention, it was engineering. Historical sources call this the prototype for the modern light switch, a handle or lever that triggers a mechanism remotely. Philip Downing invented remote control switching in 1890. The Patent Office approved it in just 4 months. His name was misspelled on record. But then came the mailboxes. On October 27, 1891, 1 year and 10 days after his railway switch, Philip received 2 patents on the same day. U.S. Patent 462-092 for a street letterbox and U.S. Patent 462-093 for a letterbox with anti-tampering features. Now, Philip didn't invent the mailbox from scratch. Albert Potts had patented the first U.S. mailbox 33 years and 7 months earlier. But Philip revolutionized how they worked. Before Philip's patents, if you wanted to mail a letter, you had to go to the post office. And when postal workers collected mail from street boxes, they had to reach in and manually grab letters. Slow, awkward, and you could never be sure you got everything. Philip solved both problems with mechanical genius. If you're learning something new about Black history right now, go ahead and hit that subscribe and like button. This channel celebrates Black inventors every week, and there are so many stories like Philip's that you've never heard. Subscribe so you don't miss them. His first mailbox patent, US 462092, created an automatic discharge system. Philip wrote in the patent that his object was to improve the construction of these devices so that the mail can be collected from them more rapidly, easily, and certainly than is possible with the devices now in use. The mailbox had two parts, a fixed top and bottom, and a movable front panel that worked like a chute. The postal worker would hook their mail bag onto the mailbox using built-in hooks. Then they'd unlock the box, and a spring mechanism would automatically throw the chute open, dumping all the mail directly into their bag. Philip even added a spring-loaded strip at the bottom that acted like a scoop, sweeping across the floor to make sure every single letter got picked up. As Philip wrote in his patent, the collector of the mail has only to unlock the box, which thereupon immediately and certainly discharges all of its contents into the bag. He then immediately closes the box again, which, if provided with a spring lock, such as is usual, locks itself automatically, and he has then merely to remove the bag from the hooks. In this way, the collector is not obliged to handle the mail matter at all in the act of collection, and collection is made rapid, easy, and certain. The postal worker never had to touch the mail. Just unlock, collect, close, go. Brilliant. His second mailbox patent that same day, US 462093, focused on anti-tampering. Philip created a hinge safety plate mechanism that hung vertically inside the box when closed. When you opened the lid to drop in your letter, the safety plate automatically swung to horizontal, creating a temporary shelf for your mail while simultaneously blocking access to the letters already in the box. You couldn't reach in and steal other people's mail while the lid was open. As Philip explained it, when the cover A is raised, the pivoted guard plate is drawn over the abutment, which acting as a fulcrum, causes the plate to assume an approximately horizontal position, and at the same time to cut off communication with the body of the box through the mailing slot. Your letter sat on that temporary shelf, and when you closed the lid, the shelf automatically dropped, and your letter fell safely into the box below. He even added a weather strip to keep rain and snow out, and a rib to prevent thieves from sticking wires or hooks in to fish out letters. Two patents, same day, both revolutionary, both mechanical masterpieces that required no electricity. And on both patents, at the bottom where Philip signed his name, it reads, Philip I3, Doivning. Not a typo on this video. That's what the US Patent Office printed on his official patents in 1891. His B became I3, and his last name became Doivning. Now, you might think that's just an old-timey mistake, maybe a problem with the printing press or the typesetting. But look at the same page, same document, same typewriter. The witness on his patent was Ellen B. Tomlinson, and her B is spelled perfectly. The Patent Office could spell a white woman's middle initial correctly on the same line, but couldn't, or wouldn't, spell a black man's name right on his own invention. This is systemic racism, not a mistake, not carelessness. This is what happens when institutions don't value black innovation. The U.S. Patent Office in 1891 told Philip Downing, "We don't respect you enough to spell your name correctly on your own patent." And that single misspelling would echo for over 130 years, making his patents nearly impossible to find in databases, contributing to his erasure from history. When we searched for his patents, we found 7, but historians say he filed at least 5. Which means there are probably more buried in unindexed records with his name misspelled in different ways. But the erasure didn't stop there. For decades, credit for Philip's mailbox invention was given to a white man named Roy J. Gerolman, who patented a similar device several years after Philip. Gerolman worked for the post office, had access to Philip's patents, and got the glory. It wasn't until the late 20th century that Philip's contributions were finally recognized. In 1989, 98 years after his patent, The United States Postal Service finally issued a commemorative stamp in Philip's honor. Think about that. A white post office employee got credit for a black postal clerk's invention for nearly a century. That's not an accident. That's systemic erasure. But Philip kept inventing anyway. On January 26, 1917, he received U.S. patent 1,243,595 for an envelope moistener. Before this, you had to lick envelopes or use a separate sponge. Philip created a device with a water tank, a roller, and a spring-loaded presser foot you controlled with your finger. As he wrote in the patent, the tank having been filled with water, the flap of an envelope is placed on the roller and held in contact therewith by the presser foot, which is lowered by the pressure of the operator's finger, and the envelope drawn over the roller so that the water which adheres to the latter will moisten the gummed portion of the flap. Slide your envelope across the wet roller, perfectly moistened, ready to seal. No more licking envelopes. The roller was even removable for easy cleaning and replacement. The Patent Office approved it in less than 9 months. On December 20th, 1917, Philip filed for U.S. Patent 1,269,584, a desk appliance for holding rolls of paper. Philip wrote that his object was to provide a simple apparatus whereby a roll of paper may be supported for ready use for writing short notes, such as shop orders, telephone messages, etc., or for writing longer manuscripts. This wasn't just a notepad, it was a two-mode device. For quick notes, you pulled out some paper, wrote on it, then tore it off along a bar, like a modern receipt printer. For longer documents, the paper followed a different path through the device, using support rods and a roller for extended writing. The brackets were adjustable for different paper widths. Patent granted June 18, 1918. 6 months. On September 16, 1918, Philip filed for U.S. Patent 1,313,074, a currency counting tray for banks. He wrote that his invention related to currency counting trays for use in banks or wherever large numbers of bills are to be counted, and its object is to provide a simple and convenient device whereby the counting of bills will be facilitated. The design was elegant, a raised oblong tray with flanges that lifted it off the desk. Stop members at the back kept the stack of bills aligned. And here's the genius part, a built-in sponge cup at the front edge. Bank tellers moistened their fingers to count bills faster, and Philip put the sponge holder right where they needed it, so they never had to reach away from their counting station. Made in one piece of glass, clean, sanitary, durable. Patent granted August 12, 1919. And Philip wasn't done. On September 18, 1923, he filed for U.S. Patent 1,538,629, a combined writing tablet and copy holder. This was actually an improvement on his 1918 desk appliance patent. Philip wrote, "The present invention, which is an improvement on the desk appliance described in my U.S. letters patent, 1,269,584, dated June 18, 1918, relates to combined writing tablets and copy holders, and its object is to provide a simple device whereby a roll of paper may be supported horizontally for writing stenographic or other notes, and then raised to vertical or inclined position for transcription of the same." This was a stenographer's dream. Write your shorthand notes while the device is flat on your desk, then tilt it up like an easel to transcribe them. The paper was on 2 axles with cranks. You could scroll through your notes line by line, like a manual teleprompter. Philip described it. By retrograde rotation of the rearward axle, the portion of the web on which the notes have been written are reeled off the forward axle onto the roll, until the first line of said notes appears above the strip, whereupon the notes are transcribed line by line, a slight turn of the handle serving to bring a new line into view. Each turn revealed the next line to transcribe. Brilliant! Patent granted May 19, 1925. 7 patents, 35 years of innovation, from streetcar switches to mailboxes to office supplies. Philip B. Downing spent his entire adult life making America more efficient, more convenient, and more modern. And he did it all while working full-time as a postal clerk at the Boston Custom House for 31 years. Think about that. He sorted mail by day and revolutionized how mail was collected by night. He worked in a system that misspelled his name and erased his contributions. and he kept inventing anyway. Philip B. Downing retired from the Custom House in 1927 after 3 decades of service. He died on June 8, 1934, in Boston, Massachusetts. He was 77 years old. For decades after his death, his work was credited to others. His patents were nearly impossible to find because his name was misspelled. His contributions were systematically erased by the same government that had granted his patents. But here's what they couldn't erase. Every time you drop a letter in a blue USPS mailbox, you're using Philip Downing's innovation. Every time you see a light switch on a wall, you're seeing the descendant of Philip's remote control switching mechanism. Every time a bank teller counts money efficiently, they're benefiting from Philip's ergonomic thinking. Every time someone tears a note off a pad, they're using a principle Philip refined. Philip came from 3 generations of freedom fighters. His grandfather ran an underground railroad station disguised as an oyster house. His father managed the dining room where congressmen debated the future of America. And Philip built the future with his hands and his mind, one patent at a time. The U.S. Patent Office tried to erase him by misspelling his name. White inventors like Roy J. Geroman got credit for his work. Databases failed to index his patents properly. But we found him anyway. We found all 7 patents. We read his own words. We saw his genius. And we're telling his story. Because Philip B. Downing didn't just invent devices. He invented solutions to problems that made everyone's life better, whether they knew his name or not. If this video taught you something about Black history you didn't know before, like it, share it, subscribe to this channel, leave a comment with the name of another Black inventor you want to learn about. This is how we fight erasure. One story, one patent, one name spelled correctly at a time. Philip B. Downing, born into a family of abolitionists, inventor of at least 7 patented devices, creator of the modern street mailbox, prototype designer of remote control switching, victim of systemic racism that started the day he filed his patents and continued for a century after his death. But most importantly, a Black man who changed America forever, whether America wanted to admit it or not. His name is Philip B. Downing, not I3, Dewivning. Philip B. Downing. Say his name. Remember his story. Share his legacy.